Yo, welcome back to another episode of On Spot Sports. I'm Jack, and today's episode we're joined by a very special guest, current professional hockey goaltender Dryden McKay. Dryden most recently played in the ECHL and the AHL this past season with the Newfoundland Growlers in the Coast and the Toronto Marlies in the American Hockey League in the AHL. But before he broke into his pro career, he's had an incredible NCAA Division I college hockey career with Minnesota State University Mankato, with winning a Hobie Baker Award, among many other awards that we'll touch on throughout the episode. But before college, he also spent time in the USHL and the NAHL with Madison Capitals in the USHL, and then Corpus Christi Ice Rays and the Green Bay Gamblers in the USHL, Corpus Christi Ice Rays, and the Springfield Junior Blues and the NAHL. So I'm excited to have you on, Dryden. So welcome to the show, Dryden McKay.
Yeah, wow. Thank you so much for that big introduction. That's awesome, and I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. I got to give the best introductions I can when my guests come on. So glad you approve of it.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, but to start things off, like how have you been? Like I know it's probably what, like a month and a half, 2 months since the season ended. So how's your off season going?
It's been good. Yeah, it's been different than off seasons in the past, just with how late our season went. Didn't really get back until I think we lost end of May, and then I don't think I got back till the first weekend in June. So, that was a little bit different. Normally, college you're done around April and kind of start your training in May, but this summer has been different and it's been good. I'm kind of getting in the swing of things as far as skating on a regular basis and working out 4 to 5 times a week and just kind of healing my body from the past season and then getting it ready to go and try to get a little bit better and more prepared for next season.
Yeah, so like what goes into like your training, especially since you did play so late into like May. So it's a quick turnaround for you. So like what's training like for you now?
Yeah, I think at the start of the training, I'm probably about a month in now. I say at the start of the training, it was mostly about like I said, like kind of healing your injuries, your little bumps and bruises and nagging stuff, and just kind of working through those, and then also starting to ramp back into your conditioning and making sure your body's well balanced before you start loading it up with weights and really pushing the pace that way. So this is the first week I'm kind of getting into the strength building phase of my training, and I've been really happy with the way it's gone so far, and excited for the rest of the summer.
Yeah, that's awesome. Are you sore already from all the strength stuff, or is it still not hitting you right quite yet?
Yeah, no, definitely sore, definitely sore. Especially during the playoffs, there wasn't much time to work out and stuff, so you lose a lot of your muscle mass and that type of stuff. So getting back into the heavy training and kind of pushing your body in different ways than you would on the ice, you definitely feel it the next day.
Yeah, I'm in my second phase right now. So I remember my first phase and that strength, and you're just sore every day, and you're just doing stuff to not be as sore, whether it be like drinking a ton of protein from the protein shakes or just recovering from with chocolate milk, just stuff like that. Just so I'm not as tired the next day as I would be if I didn't do that.
Yeah, exactly. Sleep and nutrition, all that plays a huge part, especially the older you get and the higher levels you play. That'll give you that little edge compared to everybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. But I want to get into this past season really quick here. So this is your first pro season. So like like to you, like what was this season like for you?
Yeah, it was definitely a big learning experience. It was a big adjustment from college. Definitely a little bit bigger than I was expecting. Just a different style of play, a lot more games, a lot less practices, a lot of travel. You get treated a little bit differently as far as you have more free time. You don't have to go home and do homework, or you don't have to go, do certain things that you have to do in college. It's really just, doing whatever you need to do to be at your best when you're at the rink. And I think I felt like I got stronger as the year went on, which was a big positive, and I felt like I played, my best hockey down the stretch, probably the last month of the season, and then into the playoffs. So hoping to build on that going into next year.
Yeah, it's like what do you do to build like on when you do have like as much off time as like you do when you get to the pro levels? Like what are you doing to keep yourself busy?
Yeah, it depends. I think, earlier in the season when the weather's nice, you go for walks, you go to movies, you hang out with the guys as much as you can, obviously, but it kind of depends on the weather. If it's nice out, you're going outside, maybe doing something that way, going out to dinners with the guys. And then once, it's kind of the dog days of the season, maybe you spend a little bit more time in your house and just kind of trying to catch up on sleep from all the skating and all the travel and everything. And yeah, just trying to stay in a good place mentally so that you're refreshed every time you step on into the rink and onto the ice.
Yeah, can't go wrong with that. That's for sure. But you played 33 games this season with the Newfoundland Growlers in the coast. So what was your time in Newfie like, and just be around guys like Todd Skirving, who was a big leader on your team, and just learn from guys like that?
Yeah, it was a good experience overall. I think, our team, it was interesting. We had guys like Todd and some of our older guys, Zach O'Brien and James Melindy, who were older veteran players that had played, you know, a lot of games, especially in the AHL and the ECHL, and just had a ton of experience. But then we also had, a good majority of the guys on the team were in the same situation as me, older guy or younger guys coming out of college after their senior seasons, just trying to get their footing in pro hockey. And we were able to kind of grow together, which was really cool. And overall, we had a great group, and Newfoundland's awesome. It's not the easiest place to get to, but once you're there, it's a really tight community, and it's Canada, and everybody loves hockey and everybody knows who you are. So the fans are great, and nothing but good things to say about Newfoundland.
Yeah, that's awesome. A lot of travel for you guys, right?
Oh yeah, a lot of flights.
Yeah, there we go. But hey, you're doing it in style. But like where was your favorite place you got to visit throughout your season on the coast?
We got to play Florida, the Everblades. They're right in Fort Myers, right next to Fort Myers. So can't go wrong with that. That was kind of when my season turned around, honestly. That was in probably March, I want to say, February or March, where we got to go down there. And it's, everywhere else is pretty much, in the heart of winter, and it's cold and it's gross, and the days are short and it's dark all the time. And then you go down there and it's like you're on a paid vacation. Um, you're kind of when you step away from the rink, you really have stuff to do. You can go to the beach, you can sit by the pool. You don't want to get too much sun, but it feels so good when you know you're in a place like that, and that was awesome. And then we even got to go back in the playoffs, and that was a little bit more of a business trip, but still, that had to be the best part of the season for sure.
Yeah, it's always a good atmosphere when you do go to those warm places, especially going in the cold winter months, because
Yeah.
you're from Chicago and you're Midwest, so you know exactly like the cold and everything. And I'm sure Newfies was maybe even worse than it is over here.
Yeah, the winter wasn't too bad, honestly. I'd say it's like it doesn't get super cold, but it's like always like kind of overcast and rainy. And if it snows, it'll be really heavy snow and it'll kind of melt. But yeah, I think anytime you get out in the sun, especially at that point in the season, it's going to lift everybody's spirits and bring a little bit more positivity around the guys, and everybody's in a little better mood. And guys get to go golfing and stuff. So it was a great timing for sure.
Yeah, that's not too bad at all. But then while you're playing a Newfie and with the Growlers, you also get a call up to the AHL with the Toronto Marlies, where you, if I'm not mistaken, you signed a AHL contract with the Marlies, right?
Yep.
So you then end up getting the call up to Toronto to the Marlies and played in 2 games where you go 1-0-1 throughout that time. So what was your time in Toronto with the Marlies like?
Yeah, it was good. It was kind of a whirlwind. It was like I think it was beginning of November, so it was like a month into the season. I'd had a good start in Newfoundland, and it was kind of good timing. And you know, I think once you get to pro, you realize it's all about kind of waiting for your opportunities. And the Leafs had like three goalies go down, so all of a sudden I went from playing in Newfoundland to being the starting goalie for the Marlies 1 week later. So I think that was a really good learning experience, and just kind of getting to play in Grand Rapids was awesome too. That's one of the best places in that league to play. It was military weekend, I think, so it was packed, and they had specialty jerseys. And yeah, we lost in overtime the first night, and I was able to get back get back in the net the Saturday night and pull out the win with the guys, and it was awesome. And everybody was really supportive there, and made that experience for me really enjoyable.
Yeah, so like what's it like getting that first AHL win out of the way and even like your first ECHL win out of the way? Like I'm sure it's a huge sigh of relief.
Yeah, I'd say the one with the Marlies was really big. I think it would have really stunk to go up there and play 2 games, and we lost the first one. We blew a lead and lost in overtime in the first one, and then the second game, I think we were up 2-1, and they scored with like 7 seconds left. So if they would have won that one in overtime again after all that, that would have been really deflating. But I think we scored on a power play in overtime, and just a huge sense of relief to just have that out of the way, have that in my back pocket going into the season, where it's not like I'm jumping into something that's completely brand new to me, and I have that experience to draw on.
Yeah, so you go up from the ECHL to the AHL. It's like what are some of the biggest things you learned making that jump into the AHL?
Yeah, it's just a different style of play. I'd say the AHL is a little bit more structured and defensive, but on the same hand, there's a lot of guys that have, you've got first round draft picks, you've got guys that have played a lot of NHL games, and your margin for error goes way, way, way down. You have one little mistake, one little, hole under your arm here, one little bad read there. It's going in your net. Those guys are so good and so crafty, and I think that was a big eye opener. But also, it was an eye opener in a way that I was able to see that I could play at that level, and I'm good enough. And the things that I'm doing that are working in the ECHL also work in the AHL, and yeah, like I said, everybody's super supportive, and the Marlies do a great job taking care of the players, and everything's first class. So it was great.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear, especially like when you go up a level and like it's a little bit different, like different speed, like pace wise, just stuff like that. And then you're able to go in and prove that you can play there and that you're good enough to get to that level. So it just makes you hungrier for the year following.
Yeah, exactly. I think just being able to see that style of play and the speed was great. Just being able to, you know, it's a different level, but it's not like it wasn't as big of a jump as I thought it was going to be, which is I think the most important takeaway. Um, was that it always seemed like it was such a crazy dream to play at that level, but it's all kind of in your head, and you just got to trust what you know and what's made you so successful.
Yeah, absolutely. But before we jump into like your junior college youth days here, like what was like the memory that stands out the most for you from this season?
Probably the win. I think it was game 3 against Reading in that series, which was our second round of the playoffs. It was a really like thrilling back and forth game. We ended up winning 5-4 in overtime. I think they had like two breakaway. I had to stop like two breakaways and some 2-on-1s in overtime. It was just a crazy game, and especially with the way the series was, um, it was a huge game in the series to be able to um, kind of take a stranglehold, because they could have easily made it 2-1, and we were able to make it 3-0, and that made our lives a lot easier going forward.
Yeah, that seems like a really great memory to have, and like especially good playoff time. Like that's what it's all about, is just getting those
Yeah,
like 3-0
exactly.
3-0 series leads so you can relax a little bit, not be on your toes so much. But like what was your mentality throughout the playoffs when you were in net?
Um, I mean, I think it was just basically give the team a chance to win. Just give a team a chance to win, because the Marlies sent down a bunch of guys right before playoffs, so we had a pretty stacked team for playoffs. So it made my life a lot easier knowing that you know, we had a really good team. And I think it wasn't much different from college. Just stop the ones you're supposed to stop, and if you can make a couple extra ones at the right times, especially timely saves early in the games, to keep the momentum on your side. I think that was kind of just my mentality, and then it's 7 game series are so long, and it's such a grind that you kind of just have to flush every game, good or bad, pretty much right away, because you're playing basically every other day.
Yeah, so just a short term memory, and whatever happened
Yeah,
one game, you just
exactly.
gotta flush it out.
Yeah, emotions are high. It's really hard to calm down after a game, like some of those games, with how intense they are, and the emotions and the adrenaline. So that was definitely a learning experience coming from college where everything's kind of one and done, and it's a little bit different.
Yeah, absolutely. But I want to jump into, I want to work like youth hockey to college hockey now. So you grew up in Downers Grove, Illinois. So, like, what was growing up in the Chicagoland area like, and just playing for some great organizations like the Mission and CYA?
Yeah, I think I grew up at an interesting time where when I was, probably in elementary school, everybody thought hockey was kind of a weird. Why do you play hockey? Why don't you play football or basketball? And then all of a sudden, the Hawks rattled off whatever 3 cups in 6 years. So then, by the time I got to high school, hockey was really cool, and everybody thought it was so cool that I played. So I always think that's interesting to see how much hockey's grown, especially in the Chicagoland area. And then, yeah, I mean, I started with the Huskies when they were out of the Darien Sportsplex. And then when they moved to Romeoville, I lived pretty close to the Sportsplex, and my dad was coaching there. So I just stayed and played for the Hawks, the Chicago Hawks when they were there. And then I believe it was my Pee Wee minor year. I went to the Mission, played there, Pee Wee minor, Pee Wee major, Bantam minor. And then I switched and played Bantam major and 2 years of midget minor, U16, whatever you want to call it, with CYA. And yeah, it was great experiences. And I think you can see there's a ton of guys from those teams and Chicagoland area that are still playing and doing really well today.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great area to be a part of and just to see, because there's, like you said, there's a bunch of guys still playing and playing at high levels that you can train with or stuff like that. Just learn from guys like that.
Yeah, exactly. You never have trouble. Hockey's a small world, and especially
Yeah.
in Chicago, everybody knows everybody. So, uh, yeah, definitely in the summers it was always cool to reconnect, and yeah, as I got older, it was always fun to play against your buddies.
Yeah, absolutely. But what made you go into the position of goaltending? Like, I know like us goalies get like, why'd you go play goalie when you could play player and go score goals? Like, what was your story to make you become a goalie?
Um, I mean, the biggest thing for me was my dad. He played professionally. And when I was really young, he was a goalie coach for a team in the NA. The Chicago used to have a team in the NA out of Fox Valley. It was called the Freeze. And he was the goalie coach there, and he would always have me in the locker room, kind of around the guys. He'd take me out on the ice when he could. I'd watch the games up in the press box, like stuff like that. Just always being around the game and knowing, asking my mom where's dad, and it's always out coaching goalies. Well, a way to hang out with my dad in my mind was to become a goalie. So it didn't take much pushing. I always wanted to do it. I always wanted to be like my dad, and um, yeah, he kind of made me earn it. I don't think he bought me goalie skates till I was a squirt. I think I was always that kid, that goalie with the player skates, because my dad wanted to make sure that um, I wanted to do it because I wanted to do it, not because he did it. So I think I owe a lot to my dad for getting me into the position and then making sure that it was my decision and that it was something I really wanted to do.
Yeah, I remember those days of player skates as goalie. Definitely not a fun time, but glad to have goalie skates.
Yeah, no, it was yeah, he made me earn it for sure. And it was always hand-me-down gear. And I don't think I got my first set of pads, brand new set of pads till probably Pee-wee's, honestly. So he definitely did it right in my eyes. And there's a lot of kids nowadays who their parents spent all that money on that gear and they decide they don't want to be a
Yeah.
goalie 2 years later. So you'd rather go the way that I went than I think the way a lot of kids do now.
Yeah, absolutely. But like through growing throughout like your youth hockey and all that, like it's just having fun. You're having fun with your friends and everything. It's like, what was some memories that stood out to you throughout youth hockey?
Yeah, I think you just look back at the friendships and the tournaments when you're that age, you have kind of endless energy and you play the game. You're playing 3 games a day, and then you're playing in the pool at night, and you're traveling all over the country for these tournaments. We go to Michigan like 5 times a year, and St. Louis, and wherever else, Cleveland. I don't even remember all the places, Toronto. So, just all those memories, all the times in the hotels, all the dinners on the road. It's not too much different than those are still my favorite things now. Honestly, is the time away with the guys and just being part of a team. And I was never really on the best team. Honestly, we were always okay, and I think that helped me a lot, especially as a goalie, to see a lot of rubber when you're at that age and you're playing every game. And I think that helped me get better and helped kind of push me up the ladder in Chicago hockey.
Yeah, and it's great just facing that amount of rubber when you're young, just because you get the reps and everything, and just having fun. And then
Yeah,
three skates in one day. I remember those 3 games in one days. I remember those days. I don't know how my hips could do it now.
yeah, no way. But back then, all you needed was a soft pretzel and a slushy, and be right back out there.
Yeah, absolutely. What I would do to be young again like that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but then after your CYA year in AAA at 16, you then went over to the North American Hockey League in the NAHL with the Springfield Junior Blues. Like what was the process like to sign with the Springfield Junior Blues?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I was ever really considered one of the better goalies in Illinois until probably midgets. I had a really good year of U16 as a 15-year-old. And I owe a lot to Greg Nemenko for that. He put me in a position to play some games when my goalie partner was 16 years old and I was 15. And I think he kind of took a chance on me, and I had a really good year that year and maybe drew some interest. And then followed it up the next year with another good year and had a good showing at nationals. And then kind of heard that the Springfield Junior Blues coach liked me and had been asking about me. And then sure enough, a couple weeks later, I was drafted by them, and I was also drafted by the Gamblers that summer. So that was a big summer for me. And I got to go to the Gamblers camp, and they basically just told me, they wanted to see me go play in the NAHL and get that junior experience. And I probably wasn't ready for the USHL, and they were probably right. So Springfield was great. I was still in high school. It was only an hour and a half away from home. I got that experience of kind of being on my own and looking after myself and playing against players 3 and 4 years older than me, and that was just a really good year for my development. And I was lucky enough to play a good chunk of those games and gain that experience.
Yeah, so like what helped your like development through especially throughout that time when you're playing with guys that are 3, 4 years older than you, and you just have to big guys are bigger, stronger, so you're just gonna have to face in a lot more rubber, a lot harder shots. Like what was it about that development that helped you really like excel in your game?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was kind of the first time I was able to have a goalie coach come around and kind of be able to uh, bounce ideas off him and watch video, stuff like that, and kind of just become a student of the game and figure out, watching. It's a lot. I think it's very helpful to watch yourself play and watch your
Yeah.
games back. And sometimes things feel a certain way when you're in the game, and then you watch it and you're like, oh, you notice something different, or you don't look as bad as you thought you did, or whatever it is. So I think that helped a lot. And then I think just kind of my body was still kind of developing, and I was able to get in the gym and I think just being around older players too and picking their brain is really it's a good thing for young goalies to do, no matter what level you're at, because you can learn a lot from guys that have already been through it. And I'm sure, if anytime young kids ask me today, I have a lot of experience to draw on. And I think, anytime you move up a level, it's always good to talk to somebody who's been through it.
Yeah, it's always nice to have like talk to those that know more than you and have been through more experiences like that, just because like it'll help your game get better because you're like, oh, this guy did this when he experienced this, and like it just helps everyone overall.
Yeah, exactly. You never know it all. So it's always good to talk to guys and bounce ideas off them.
Yeah, absolutely. But then you went in after your first year in Springfield with the Junior Blues. You then went into your second year with the Corpus Christi Ice Rays in the NAHL South. So, like, what was the NAHL South division like?
It was fun. It was different, but I think I really had to grow up a lot that year. Moving 28 hours away from home. Um, I did online school that year, so that was more of the junior hockey experience to really be on your own and really have to fend for yourself. But that was a different beast. Those teams down there back then, especially, used to kind of just load up on the overage guys. So it was a bunch of 20-year-olds, pretty much every team. Um, and yeah, I think that was a good year too. I think I learned a lot that year. There's a lot of adversity. I didn't have a very good first half of the year, and then Kind of similar to this year. I had a really strong finish and kind of figured things out towards the end of the year and had a good showing. Before I was able to make that jump to the USHL.
Yeah, and like throughout those 2 years or year and a half in the NAHL, you played 37 games and you played 34 before going to USHL. So like, what was it about playing a ton of games, especially in CYA when you're playing 17, then you make the jump to 20 plus games to 37?
Yeah, I think it's different. You got to learn. It's one thing to be like a good goalie in a tandem, and then it's another thing to really carry the load and have that responsibility. So I think that was the biggest thing I learned in those first years of juniors was how to find consistency when you're playing a lot is a big key. And once you find that consistency, then coaches know they can rely on you, and um they're not nervous to have you in there in those big games. And it's all about instilling that confidence in your team with your consistency, whether that's in practice or the workouts or the games or whatever. And that's kind of what you have to do if you want to play a lot of games.
Yeah, and you like get into a good flow where you're playing like every game, so you're not like going playing a game, sitting the bench the next couple games, so you can't really get a good read of the game. Like you're in it for the money, and you're able to read it right away.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about finding that rhythm, and your rhythm's different on every team too. It depends how your
Yeah.
team plays, whether they're defensive or offensive. They take a lot of chances or whatever. You kind of have to find that level of comfort with every team that you're on.
Yeah, absolutely. But then after you were with Corpus Christi, you went into the USHL with the Green Bay Gamblers, where you play in a game. It's like, what was it like getting into in a USHL game?
Yeah, I think that was kind of my first experience of like feeling that, I'm playing with the big boys now. And I think I definitely overthought it because I'm sure if you have my elite prospects pulled up there, the game didn't go very well. I played one game with the Gamblers. I think I gave up 2 goals on like 8 shots in like 10 minutes, the first 10 minutes of the first period, and I was got yanked. So that was a big adversity at the time. And I think, looking back on it, it really wasn't that big of a deal. Things ended up working out and it's just kind of a bump in the road. But then, the next year I went back to Green Bay for training camp and kind of was the odd man out with the other 3 goalies and was lucky enough to get picked up by Madison. So things ended up working out.
Yeah. So what do you learn from experiences like that where you get yanked right away and you're like, oh, like this could be my career in the USHL or stuff like that, and then you end up getting picked up by Madison, so didn't really have to stress it.
Yeah, exactly. I think at the time it feels like the end of the world and it feels like you just ruined your career, but in reality, it's just 10 minutes of hockey that didn't go your way. And
Yeah.
I think you just got to keep working and, fight through it and be ready for your next opportunity. Because if you don't believe there's another opportunity coming, then there isn't going to be because you're not going to be ready for it. So I think from that point on, I went back to Corpus Christi for the rest of the year. And that's when like I talked about before, I really kind of found my game and found my way and felt like that was a big turning point for my career.
Yeah, and then you end up getting signed by the Madison Capitals, and like Madison, like I've heard that organization is unreal, especially now. It's like, what was from your eyes, like what was the Madison Capitals organization like?
Yeah, it was good. I think the biggest thing there was I got to play. I got to play a ton. I think my second year there, I played like 50 out of 60 games or something crazy. And I think that was another opportunity for me to learn how to play a lot of games and handle that workload and learn to be a leader. I was an older guy, but at that point playing in Madison, it was my third and fourth year of junior. So I was a little bit more of a leader and learning that was really important, especially going into college. And we didn't always have the best teams, but we always had a good group of guys, and we had a lot of fun. So um, I think those teams, those years were I got a ton of rubber, and I got to face. I think that's when I kind of found the belief in myself because I was playing against the best kids in the country that are committed to all the top schools, and I saw that I was right there with them, and it gave me a lot of confidence going into college.
Yeah, it's like what is the for like younger players that are like just playing like don't really have that confidence, like what really builds that confidence and like the importance of believing in yourself and having that confidence in yourself that you can play at that level.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just I always have this thing on my helmet. It says everything happens for a reason. So good or bad, things happen, and it's all about kind of how you deal with them. And if you have one great weekend, it doesn't mean that you're going to play really well the next weekend. So you just kind of have to keep putting one foot in front of the other, and waiting for those opportunities. And when you get them, you don't be nervous, be excited, and go out there and take advantage of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that answer. And when you were in Madison, did you have any like were you getting recruited a lot by these colleges before you signed with committed to Minnesota State Mankato, or did it just come up as like a little surprise?
Yeah, it was kind of a slow build at first. It's like, okay, I'm playing well. Like, how come I'm not hearing from schools? And then all of a sudden you hear from one, and then all of a sudden you hear from five, and then it's kind of overwhelming at first, and then you kind of just have to figure out what you want out of a school and out of a team, and um, kind of what situation works for you. And I think when it came down to it, Mankato, had everything that I wanted. It was relatively close to home. It wasn't a huge school, but it wasn't a small school. It had what I wanted to study. And they also had a great team with great coaches, and didn't have a returning goalie. My freshman year was the biggest thing, so I got to play right away. And yeah, the stars definitely aligned for me there with Mankato.
Yeah, so what was that transition period like going from the USHL to NCAA Division One when you're getting thrown right in the fire and like you have that starting job right away?
Yeah, that was a crazy time. I think it was such a wake up call. As from college, you do a lot of off ice training. You go there for 6 weeks in the summer, and you're working out 5 days a week, 7 a.m., 2 hour lifts every day. So that type of stuff. And then the guys on your team are men, especially the older ones. So I think that was a big wake up call as far as how to take care of my body, how to eat properly, um, kind of how to do that type of stuff. Coach Hastings was always talking about, treating us like pros, and being pros, even though we weren't pros. And that's where I definitely learned those habits and those hard lessons is, you know, every level you go up, the margin for error gets smaller. So especially once you got to college, there's only so many games in the season. There's only 35 games. So every game is a huge game, and every little mistake you make matters, and can really affect your season.
Yeah, so like what do you learn from like a year like that where you get thrown right in the fire, NCAA Division One hockey, and you're put on a really good team as well, so that also helps. But like what do you learn about yourself
Yeah.
throughout those experiences?
Yeah, I mean, my freshman year, I played the first 4 games, and I played good, not great. I think we went 3-1, but like we were winning every game like 6-4. So it was like I wasn't really playing I wasn't doing anything special. And then I think after that fourth game, I didn't play for a month. I think that was the first time in a long time I'd, been put on the bench, and kind of told that this guy, we're gonna put this guy in. We think he gives us a better chance to win. And then um, I sat on the bench for a month, and then I was able to get back in there. And I think once I got back in there, I was a little more focused, and uh, definitely a little calmer, more relaxed, more comfortable. And I think from that point on, for the next 3.5 years, um, we're a little bit smoother, and I knew what was going on.
Yeah, so did you like take time away from like the games when like your backup was the essentially the starter then, and like just work at stuff at practice just to make yourself more calm, just stuff like that? Like what do you do to help yourself just get those like those what characteristics to get better
Learn
and
how to get
be
back
that
in.
starter? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it definitely, it pissed me off. I was still had to make sure to be a good teammate, and can't make it all by yourself. But I definitely started working a little harder in practice, and kind of lit that fire under me to get the net back. And then once I got it back, I knew that I didn't want to ever give it up again.
Yeah, and you end up getting some awards throughout that year. So you were NCAA WCHA All Rookie Team. You're a WCHL CHA champion, regular season champion. You're on the second All Star team. So like, what led to those successes and just to be able to be recognized for for those awards?
Yeah, I think we had a really good team, and we really found our stride. Um, Especially that year, we had really good like upperclassmen. And it wasn't anything crazy. I thought, I just kind of I was consistent. I think the biggest thing is just be consistent and good things will happen. And as long as the team knows that their goalie's not going to be really good one game and suck the next game, I think, a team can really get on a roll.
Yeah, so you find that rhythm, find that role, and then you go into your second year where you continue on that trend. So, like, what was that sophomore year like, and just being more comfortable than you were your freshman year?
Yeah, I mean, I think the sophomore year, I think on paper was our best team in my 4 years there. We had a lot of guys come back that definitely could have gone to the NHL, and it was too bad that COVID ended that year in the playoffs because I think we had a legitimate shot there to win the national championship. So that was really disappointing. But yeah, I just kind of kept building and building off my freshman year, and I think every year I kind of just kept building and not being satisfied and continuing to push myself.
Like, throughout your 4 years of NCAA Division One college hockey, like, did you have any keys to your success? Like, what did you do to help you be so successful throughout those 4 years, and even in the pro life as well?
Yeah, I think just never being satisfied is the biggest thing. I think as soon as you think that you're good, you're gonna find out pretty good that you're not. So I think whether it was whatever, getting awards, winning games, all that stuff, like you just kind of had to keep building and obviously appreciating it and enjoying it in the moment and then shifting your focus every day to getting that little bit better in practice or pushing yourself and maybe looking at the film and figuring out what you could do better. And I think that's the biggest thing, for any young player, any player really, in any sport is just to never be satisfied and continue pushing.
Yeah, I love that answer because you really could improve on literally anything, like whether it be skating, like how you track the puck, how you're moving, just what you're doing to treat the body better, just nutrition, sleep, like the list could go on and on, like on things that you can improve on to that will hopefully translate into helping your game.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's always somebody out there, gunning for your job, and there's always somebody out there working harder than you. So you're never at the top. You're never truly at the top, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I like that answer. You just got to keep working for it, keep working hard, and keep doing whatever you can to keep getting better every single day.
Yep.
So then you go on to your third year of college hockey. So it's like during like a weird time with the pandemic and everything. So what was that year like, and just having to deal with all like the protocols and everything like that?
Yeah, it was super stressful. We were getting tested like constantly. It felt like I think looking back, I think we had like 200 COVID tests just over the course of the season. And the season I don't think started until the end of November. So we had like this awkward 2 month training camp right when we got to school in August. And then we were just there and it just felt like we were practicing for nothing and working out for nothing. And we couldn't go anywhere. We couldn't do anything. We couldn't see anybody. So it's a really tough time, just like it was for everybody. And but I think, the season ended well with, finally getting the first NCAA tournament win against Quinnipiac and then shutting out the Gophers the next night was definitely a highlight for me and getting to experience that Frozen Four.
Yeah. So like, were you just like you had to go, like you couldn't see anyone like you said. So were you just like in your dorm room the entire night, the entire day, just stuff like that?
Yeah, well, that year I was in a house at least with my four roommates, so at least it wasn't like I was in a solo
Yeah.
dorm room by myself all the time. But yeah, we just had to be super smart. I think we did a good job as a team of keeping a bubble. So as long as we were all tested negative, we could all hang out together. So that team was able to get really close because pretty much the only people that we could see were each other. So yeah, definitely a crazy time and definitely something I don't want to have to go through again.
Yeah, absolutely. But talk about like the shortened season, like those 26 games or something like that, and like at this point, like every game matters in college hockey, anyways. But even it mattered even more to get into like the NCAA tournament during like the pandemic years. So like talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean you had no room for error for sure. Even more than other years, just based on the schedule. Um, not playing any out of conference games if I remember right. So I think we played in Bemidji, I think like 10 or 15 times out of those 20 whatever games. It was crazy. So yeah, just same thing, just trying to be dialed in every night and making the most of those games and kind of learn how to build your own energy and that self drive without the fans. And it's such an awkward experience as a player to be in such an empty rink when you're used to, especially Mankato, getting unbelievable crowds and the bands and everything. So yeah, it was a weird time, but I think you also have to take the positives from it too.
Yeah, absolutely. But what'd you do to help? Were you, because obviously the atmosphere like makes a lot of like the atmosphere and everything, the crowd more fun and everything. So what do you do to help yourself stay in it when there was no crowd?
Yeah, I think I just had to remind myself to stay focused and stay in the moment, and I think those are helpful. Even now with a crowd to stay focused on the puck and the next play, no matter if it's a goal or a nice save. It's all about the next shot and just having that laser focus when you're in the heat of the game.
Yeah, so then you go into like the NCAA tournament where you win the first NCAA tournament win for the team, and then like you shut out Minnesota right after that. So like what was the tournament like for you and just getting to experience that whole like frozen that whole like NCAA tournament?
Yeah, I mean we had been waiting to get back there since that freshman year when we lost to Providence, and then my sophomore year we had a really good chance to be that first win. Unfortunately, it didn't happen with COVID, and then to finally get that monkey off our back, off the program's back, especially was awesome, and especially the way that we did it, winning in overtime and kind of a dramatic game was really cool. And then playing our in-state rivals and a team that a lot of people, everybody in Minnesota knows who the Gophers are, but I think after that game everybody knew who the Mavericks were as well. So that was probably the biggest win in the program's history this far.
Yeah, so then you have to take like all the momentum and everything into your last season, your senior season, where it was a great great year for you. Like you ended up winning the Hobie Baker Award among the first All-Star team, goaltender of the year, player of the year, regular season champion, first All-American team. So the awards keep stacking itself. So like what was your senior year like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the only way it could have been better was if we had won the national championship. I think other than that, it was a dream season. Everything seemed to go our way. We kind of felt like a team of destiny. We had such a good team, a really close team too. Just a good group of guys and really hardworking. Yeah, I think we got to play an outdoor game that year. We got to do a lot of cool stuff, and then all that plus having fans back in the rinks and kind of getting back to normal. It was probably the most fun I've had playing hockey so far in my life was that season.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like what did it mean to you to win Hobie Baker Award and just to be named best collegiate player in the world in the country?
Yeah, it was really cool. It's obviously an honor and super humbling. I think was the biggest thing to once it kind of settled in to see your name on that list of guys is very humbling. And there's a lot of expectation that comes with that, not just on the ice but off the ice. It's a standard of excellence, and I think just more seeing the reaction from people that are close to me and my teammates and my family and my friends and everything was probably the coolest part. And seeing people be proud of me and that type of thing, and all the kind words through social media or texts or whatever was really special.
Yeah, and like you did all this as like being like one of the smaller goalies as well in like the goalie world where it's like 6'2", 6'3", you're 6 foot on your elite prospects. So like what is it about being like a smaller goalie that you have to do to overcome those obstacles and those politics with I want a bigger goalie on my team rather than a guy that's 6 foot.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing technically is your skating. You have to be able to hit your spots, be in the perfect position pretty much every time. I think you have to have a really good hockey IQ. You have to know how to read plays and how to anticipate where the next play is going to come from. And I think if you're able to do that and show that you can compete at the high levels, I think
we're starting to see smaller goalies get more of a chance, whether it's, everybody loves to watch UC Saros, but you see, Devin Levi doing really well. You see Dustin Wolf, back-to-back AHL goalie of the year. He'll be in the NHL soon. Like those type of guys are proving that, you don't have to be 6'2", as long as you stop the puck is the biggest thing. And there's nothing I can do about my size besides, prove to people that it's a non-factor.
Yeah, just gotta do whatever you can to be better than the bigger goalies, and that the coaches and general managers and all that can't overlook you because of that.
Yeah, just control what you can control, and that's stopping pucks.
Yeah, absolutely. But I have one more question before we wrap things up here. So, do you have any tips for goaltenders looking to get to that next level, whether it be juniors to college, college to pro, youth to junior hockeys, or whatever level they may be at?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say from a technical point, it would just be your skating. I think, goalies see these NHL goalies and these elite goalies, and they think that they have to be able to do the splits and be able to do all these crazy moves. But then you go out and you watch these guys practice. We're doing the same skating drills that the 12-year-olds are doing, and it's just perfecting that, your balance, your edge work, your explosiveness, all those types of things. And if you can really become an elite skater, that'll take you really far. And then I say the other biggest thing would just be to have fun, enjoy it. Hockey, it's the best sport for a reason, and it can be a grind at times, and it's not always easy. But as long as you're enjoying it and making the most of it, I think you'll have a positive experience.
Yeah, I love those answers, both answers, and like you said, like the technicality with skating, like that's the same thing I tell my when I goalie coach, I tell the kids like I literally do the exact same thing, and like all these other pro guys do as well, and like it's not like anything like Instagram, like the Instagram videos you see where it's guys are doing just weird, stupid things like that. It's literally just all about the basics and just going back to like that foundation to get you to be that elite skater.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but this is the last question. So what if you're going to the gym, going into like pregame warmups, like are you a big listener to music, or are you just a quiet guy?
I'd say it's somewhere in the middle. I'm not a headphones guy. Like I'm not the goalie that's walking around and nobody can talk to him. That's definitely not me. Um, but like definitely something upbeat, whether it's rap or whatever, EDM, dance music, rock and roll, I don't care. But just something upbeat kind of gets you pumped up for the game, pumped up for the workout, whatever it may be. But I usually leave that up to somebody else on the team because that's a lot of pressure, and I don't need that before the game. So I'm not too picky, but it definitely plays a big part.
Yeah, they want to minimize all the pressure before the game. The game is a lot more stressful than can't
Yeah,
add anything on
exactly.
anything.
You can never make everybody happy.
Not at all. But Dryden, I really appreciate your time, and I want to wish you the best season, and go win a championship wherever you end up.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me on, and best of luck to you as well.